For every federal thug who thinks they're above the law, for every liar in the Trump administration telling them they're above the law, for every coward in Congress who's not doing something, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of more people standing up for community. And there are a lot of amazing lawyers out there making inroads with individual cases and doing the litigation and doing the hard work. And I think it's through litigation that eventually, hopefully, we'll
Do
see
you
some
think
real
that litigation
changes.
is actually working?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of it is, for example, in individual cases, what immigration lawyers are finding, both locally and nationally, is that one of the best toolboxes in the toolkit right now are habeas petitions. Someone is detained by ICE. What we're seeing is rampant unlawful detentions. They're being unlawfully detained, and then that gives the hook for an attorney to file a habeas petition in federal district court. So not immigration courts, which are not real courts, but real federal courts, alleging government unlawfully detained my client for these reasons, and they should be immediately released. And we're seeing a lot of success with that. If you want like specifics and great cases to see and examples, I would point folks to the Innovation Law Lab, a local nonprofit legal
Yes, we've heard
law
of them.
firm that's really paving the way for some amazing habeas work.
We interview one of the cases,
Oh, good.
Victor Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is that the firefighter?
No,
No.
Oh,
that
okay.
was the
I think
At
that's
Hillsborough.
the first one who were put on jail
Okay.
for ICE agents.
Yeah.
from Hillsborough.
Oh,
From
from
Hillsborough,
Hillsborough.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and they talked about the habeas
Yeah.
petition and how that helped them. But the reality out here is different than inside. And so they're getting pressure to
sign,
their
Self-deportation.
self-deportation
Self-removal, I think that's
or
called.
I
whatever
say
that's-
voluntary departure is
Yes.
often.
And so, I've talked to a few people and they have their work permits valid and they're like, if they take me, I think I'm just gonna sign off on that because I don't wanna go through that.
Yeah.
And it's by the time you get an attorney and you get somebody to work on your case and get all the documentation, how do you give them hope?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's incredibly difficult. Conditions of detention are worse than they've ever been. Detention is increasing at breakneck speed. And for some people, maybe that is the best choice for them. Maybe they are ready for that. But I would definitely say that no one should sign anything that they don't understand 100%. You should talk to a lawyer first because a lot of people do have pathways to relief or status, or in the case of people who maybe have a work permit, they have maybe what we would call lawful presence, but not lawful status. They've got something in the works, they've got deferred action, whatever it is. Those are great habeas cases, right?
Exactly.
One government agency said, no, you can stay here. Here's your work permit. You can be lawfully present while your application's pending or whatever. And now another government agency is acting like that's nothing, like it doesn't exist, right? That's clearly unlawful. So I think a lot of people do have potential habeas petitions or other forms of relief. And it is incredibly difficult. And ICE might lie, like sign right here and we'll let you out. Sign right here and we'll see your family. But really you might be signing something you don't understand and you'll be on an airplane very quickly.
You're an expert on civil rights, and I have a question that is in my mind. There is a couple of laws on civil rights that says that you're gonna be discriminated based on race and color and all of that. How is that aligned with the decision of like kind of targeting people who have accent
Because
or
right now
color
it's
or
very
Yeah.
obvious that it's
Yeah.
based on
The racial profiling that's happening right now is blatant and it's appalling. And unfortunately, across the board, there's always been the understanding that racial profiling violates the Constitution, right?
Yes.
Correct.
But we did have a recent order from the Supreme Court. So this was an order that came out of some litigation from California and that increased enforcement actions there. I won't get into all the details, but only to make clear that it wasn't a precedential decision, so it wasn't an opinion that technically has legal precedent, but it was an order where the Supreme Court found, and it was authored by Kavanaugh, that that race or ethnicity, the fact that someone has an accent and maybe has a low paying job, they're a day laborer, that all of these factors taken together may be sufficient to give rise to what we call reasonable suspicion. So for this goes for ICE officers or law enforcement, police, whatever. In order to briefly detain someone, even for questioning, so not a full arrest, but maybe police want to like stop you and question you further, they have to have reasonable suspicion. And it has to be something specific and articulable about that person, that situation where they think, oh, this person is removable from the United States, or this person has committed a crime if it's a cop. Historically, all other courts have found that race and ethnicity can't be one of those factors that support reasonable suspicion to stop someone briefly. But Kavanaugh in the order said, oh yeah, actually it can. So we're calling those Kavanaugh stops now. When people are being stopped just because of the way they look or sound. Unfortunately, in some cases, that might pass muster with the Supreme Court. I think, at the end of the day, there's no final precedent opinion on it. So let's see where it goes. But we are seeing it, and it has gotten the green light from the Supreme Court at this point, unfortunately.
And now, they have the power or whatever they call it to read your plates and know the name of the person that it's driving.
Yeah.
So they still pull you over. They still they know your name. I don't know if they have access to a record, but on Know Your Rights, I know that you do the Know Your Rights classes or master classes. But at that point, how would you talk to them? Because for me, it's like, if I ever get stopped, I wanna argue with them. I wanna say,
Somebody
dude,
want to argue with her.
I'm like, dude, you have the power to run my plates. You know who I am. You know I have no criminal record, and I am not whatever you want to call it. Like, why are you stopping me?
Yeah.
And I see that some people, it works for some people, but I think you have to have the guts to talk to them like that. And then they go away. They walk away. They're like, dude, I'm a citizen. I am going to work. Leave me alone.
Yes.
And, you have no right to be stopping me because I am on my way to work. And for some other ones, they're like, oh, here's my green card, here's my work permit, and then they just get so angry, and then you get confused because you're like, should I talk? Should I not talk? What should I do? And then there's this thing that Hector was telling me. It's like, if you were born here, there's nothing that says that you have to carry your passport everywhere. And so, how do you deal with this?
There's a lot going on in that question.
Yes.
It's just a podcast with that question.
So I will say upfront, like, as far as ICE being able to like scan and get information from license plates and things like that, like, that's totally true. We have learned that, right, that they are using very advanced surveillance technology to get that kind of information about people. Of course, ICE is a federal law enforcement agency, so they have access to a lot of the same databases that the FBI or other federal law enforcement agencies would have. So they are collecting a lot more information about people and finding people that way. They also are using more facial recognition technology, like an app called Mobile Fortify, that they're using to like capture people's faces and try to connect them to immigration records, see if they've got any kind of, prior removal order or criminal record or something that would make them more of a priority for detention. I mean, there are no priorities anymore, right? It's just
Yeah.
numbers at this point. So I just want to validate, but that is absolutely happening. If you are stopped, and then your question is like, what do I say? Really, I do give a lot of know your rights trainings, and we try to boil it down to like, don't trust them, don't talk to them, don't consent to a search. Like if you can't remember anything else, remember these things. But the truth is, in the immigration situation, because each individual is going to have their own unique immigration
Case.
immigration case.
Yeah.
My colleague calls it like everyone fits into a different immigration bucket, and like the gold standard really is to develop your own personalized know your rights plan. Sit down and really talk to an attorney if you can. If not, there are some good self-help resources and tools to kind of help you think through what you're going to do and say if you are arrested by ICE. And I would point people to the Oregon for All website for some of those resources. But really thinking about it in advance and visualizing what you're going to say and do in that moment can truly help, because those moments are scary. Or maybe you're like super brave, like you're over here, and like you're ready and you know what you're going to say. I think a lot of people aren't, right?
No, I'm not. Trust me.
Oh no, I wouldn't mess with you.
Then there's the other side. Like if they stop you, right? So you mentioned that they need a probable cause to stop you. That's the first step. So they come to you and they say like, well, show me your papers, right? And then you are like, no, I don't want to show you my papers. I'm a citizen. The law doesn't make me to have my paper with me. And then they escalate immediately the situation. They break the window. They
And
turn
we've seen
hard.
that.
And
We are
that, like,
seeing
I
it.
mean, we've seen
I
worse
think
than that.
first and foremost, prioritize safety.